Hi there, welcome to Terraland Soap Opera. Today I'm going to do a reading for Leo energy, and like usual on this channel we're going to do two rows. The top row I refer to as high vibe Leo energy, the bottom row a more worldly, shadowy Leo energy. We all have our dualistic nature in Leo, and Leo can be debating between indulging our more worldly nature, which can make up a lot of things, as we'll talk about in the reading, or just hide behind our ego and kind of like our false persona kind of lives our life. And high vibe Leo is kind of offering truth and love to all those issues that could manipulate us, because of the big picture, shadowy energy kind of represented by the devil, high vibe energy represented by God. We have this dualistic nature. We have the seeds of the knowledge, good and evil within us. And we have free will to decide which aspect of ourself we choose to invest in. But it's hard to work through our more worldly nature because there's a lot of things in the world that we want to go indulge in. And, the more immature or prideful or stubborn or have a hard time kind of tempering ourselves. Leo's represented by the strength card of tempering your more egoic nature. Might have to go on a few journeys in life to learn some lessons the hard way. And then I think high vibe energy is kind of just living your more authentic life, less manipulated by your shadow nature, less manipulated by the world, less manipulated by other shadowy people. To live your more authentic life. Life's meant to be enjoyed. Go enjoy your life. But high vibe energy is like within balance, because high vibe energy is balanced. So let's go see what's going on in Leo energy. Well, let's go look at the top row first. The reason for the top row's reading is the Three of Cups, which is Cancer energy. But again, Cancer energy is about, it's emotional water sign energy, which can be about what we love. It's supposed to be about love of self and love of others, but we could have been a little more caught up and manipulated. Shadowy Cancer can be about being emotionally manipulated. We could have, and we all have been. We've all been more emotionally manipulated by the world and other people, because there's all these things of the world that we want. Part of that is to be in, the Three of Cups can talk about working together with others. We want to be in friendship and relationship with people. We might want to get married, have jobs, and all these things. And a lot of those things can emotionally manipulate us to such a degree that we kind of get tipped out of balance, and we kind of keep staying more about these things of the world. But then as time goes by, and again, as we go through life, we get tired of feeling more emotionally manipulated by all the things that manipulate us. And some people might decide the end of the reading here on the bottom row is the King of Swords, which is Libra energy, represented by the Scales of Justice, and the Lover's card. And the Lover's card is Gemini, about our dualistic nature. We kind of go on this journey to learn all these lessons in life. Hopefully to see the truth is what the King of Swords can talk about seeing the truth of all these things that manipulate us. Our immature nature, our prideful, stubborn, lustful, greedy, codependent, want for these things of the world. And then there can be all these other people in the world that are happy we think like that, and we get in friendship and relationship with them because to some degree they think that way too. Like we hung out with people when we were 18, and we probably hung out with other 18-year-olds. And then when we were 21, we quit hanging out with 18-year-olds and we hung out with 21-year-olds, right? And, we just go through all these different phases of life. And hopefully as we go through these different phases, hopefully we learn some lessons along the way. Because I do think we come in contact with all these different people in the world to help us get more clear about what our truth is, because there's so many different kind of people in the world, and they all have these different ways of living life and these different ways of interacting with people that they think is just and fair. And then we get to know them or come in contact with them, and we're like, I don't think that's just and fair, and it's trying to get more clear in our dualistic nature of ourself, of our Gemini nature, of what is my truth? What do I think is just and fair? And as we go through each of those phases of life, hopefully we love ourselves Both Cancer can talk about love and High Vibe Gemini can talk about love. And hopefully we kind of see where we're in more mismatched relationships, and that if we feel they use their emotions more manipulatively, or maybe their status or their image or their charm or their sexuality or their looks or money or status or power, all those things can be in a more shadowy Libra energy that people can harness, and shadowy Leo. Their truth can be that they love being more about themselves or these things of the world. And other people could kind of uh, go through these life experiences, and they kind of come out on the other side. And they're like, I think love is supposed to be just and fair, and you're supposed to treat other people the way you like to be treated, and everybody deserves to be treated, the way you would like to be treated. If there's people in our life who we feel we're bossy or controlling or manipulative, or shadowy Leo can be, you know, prideful, manipulative. Shadowy air sign can be where people are mentally trying to confuse you about the truth. Maybe about the truth of who they are, what drives and motivates them. And if you thought it was supposed to be about love, and you realize it's not love that drives and motivates them, it's wanting other people to maybe not love themselves, and to kind of let them, I don't know, manipulate you or try to get you to indulge them, right? And eventually people kind of work through who they think is more manipulative, and we can have love for those people. We can have people in our own family, people we've known since we were children, people in our community, people in our neighborhood. We can have love for people, but, they can have a different viewpoint in life about what they think is just and fair, and things that drive and motivate them. Some of them could be in more shadowy Leo energy, regardless of what zodiac sun sign they are. So far we've talked about Cancer, Gemini, Libra, and Leo. Are you more just and fair? Do you try to work with people cooperatively from love? Do the other people, or do they try to mentally manipulate you, abuse your loving nature, want to take your loving nature for granted, and try to get you up in your head about, and just trying to manipulate you? And eventually, people kind of see the truth. Who does work together with me in a more just and fair way? Who doesn't? And that's when people, it's like, I wish you peace and love, but I'm going to kind of keep my distance from you because our truth is different. And go live your life. Everybody's got the free will to do it. But I kind of think our truth is different, and we might use our emotions, and how we go about our game plan of how to interact with people can be very different. One can be very strategic, manipulative, more about themselves and just how it benefits them. Some of them don't give a damn how other people feel. As long as it works out the way they want for them, well, other people think that's not just and fair. We're supposed to work together cooperatively, treating other people the way we like to be treated, And eventually other people are going to kind of stand up for themselves, and they're going to move on. And then up in the top row, we start out with the Ten of Swords. And the difference between the One Sword and the Ten of Swords is the Nine of Swords, which the 8, the 9, and the 10 are all Gemini. We can have people that we love, we would like them to be in our life, doesn't mean they want to hang out with us more or we want to hang out with them more, because we can be so different. But can I still have love for you and wish you the best? Yeah. Can I not want to hang out with you more than I do? Yeah. Can they not want to hang out with me more than they do? Yeah. Because our truth is different. What we love and our idea of the dream life, can be different. And so, but you can still love people and be very different from them. But some people kind of work through. Down here, I guess we're going to kind of be jumping. Here we have the Three of Swords. If we were to add the One Sword to it, that would be the Four of Swords. And in high vibe, that would be I've kind of reflected in the Hermit on some of my past pain and heartbreak. And I've maybe seen how I could have gotten caught up in the Nine of Cups of Pisces energy. I could have been caught up in things of the world, my illusions about life, my more immature nature. And I could have seen how maybe some of those things in the Five of Wands caused me inner conflict, is what that can talk about, and it's Leo energy. And then we have the Two of Wands, which can talk about, I had this dream I wanted to bring into reality. But if I kind of have these illusions, and shadowy energy can be, I have a problem either standing up for myself, getting clear about what my own truth is, can get manipulated by the world and all these other things. And that's when people could get inspired within themselves, which is what the Five of Wands can talk about. I have a dream. And if I'm going about my life in a certain way, even if it could be a job I love, with people in my life that I love, if our truth of the Three of Swords and the Four of Swords is Libra energy, along with King of Swords, if the people that I'm working with, if they harness this energy to a degree, we all could have been more immature. We could have all kind of been caught up in the world. We all could have had inner conflict about believing in ourselves, believing in our dreams, standing up for ourselves, had these lessons to learn about, get more clear about what our truth is and our truth isn't. As we can move forward in relationships with people, and we could be kind of loving and encouraging and supportive people to each other, but eventually, with some of the people in our life, we could realize that, kind of what motivates and inspires us, because the difference between the Five of Wands and the Two of Wands is the Three of Wands. The Two of Wands is like, I have a dream. The Three of Wands is taking action on that dream. And it's kind of like what I'm inspired by, what I love, what is my truth, what I think is just and fair. And so we can like people, we could, if it's romantic, we could be attracted to them, and we can get in those friendships, relationships, take that job. But eventually, we kind of, there's lots of things to work through in friendships and relationships and workplaces. It's kind of a process. And then, we could get to a place where it could be ready to kind of move forward at some point in time. But the truth of what motivates and inspires each other is different. Well, this is kind of how I envisioned it coming into reality. This is my truth. This is what I love. And the other person's like, oh, well, that's not quite how I envisioned it coming into reality. This is what I like and I love and that I'm inspired by and what I think is just and fair. And then you kind of realize that though people could have gotten along, maybe in the Three of Swords, that in Libra also can be that in a lot of ways you can get along. And the Nine of Cups, you could like each other, have love for each other. The Five of Wands, you can be attracted to each other if it's that type of relationship. But in any relationship, again, it's kind of, it could help each other work through some inner conflict, work through some emotional confusion, maybe get feeling more stable and balanced within yourself. And you both could have played a role, and the different people in your life, to maybe help each other, because with some people, why would we have gotten more involved in a relationship with them? It could have been equally, kind of beneficial, or people wouldn't have keep staying in the friendship or relationship. But again, there can come a point where it's like, I kind of realize kind of more what drives and motivates you and your idea of the dream life, and kind of what drives and motivates me and my idea of the dream life can be different. And some people could have a lot of inner conflict about maybe kind of growing up. This is like a minor arcana, just kind of like page energy. All of these here could be more like page energy. In tarot, we have the pages, the knights, the kings, the queens, the emperor, the empress. And some people, shadowy energy can be where kind of Gemini, like Libra, is air sign energy. Anybody can live more from their mind than their heart. And some people in shadow, the Virgo hermit, can talk about, I hide that I maybe am kind of more, maybe emotionally immature. I do like to live more from my mind than my heart. And I maybe wasn't inspired to even connect in with myself more emotionally. And, I am happy, is what the Nine of Cups, and emotionally fulfilled. I decided that my truth is I'm happy being more inspired to live more from my mind than my heart. And anybody can make that free will choice. Other people could be, I like to be in relationships and I like it to be where it's more about me, male or female. And they could like to be in whoever. Some people harness this energy in a shadowy way, whether they're male or female. They could like other people to just be, even if they have to get in relationships with people who could be more immature, more competitive, more conflicted, or full of themselves, or whatever. Because in comparison to those people, they could seem like the more just and fair and stable and grounded person and more mature person. And then they like to be in relationships with people who might not have the status or the image or aren't even as mature as they are, because they like seeming like maybe the smartest person in the room. And then if we're talking about Leo, it might be, they seem like the smartest or the most attractive or the most victorious or successful in some way, and really don't want, in the Five of Wands, can talk about competition. And they also might be people who don't want to change. The fives talk about change. People can all hide that they made a decision about what their truth is. And the truth is, some people have decided that they think what will make them happy is to not maybe do love. If you do love, you do have to temper your ego. It isn't just more about you. Love is supposed to be just and fair. And some people have some inner conflict about that concept, because in the Two of Wands, which is Aries energy, which is about the self, anybody could have a little conflict with being a little more just and fair in a relationship because they really kind of like it to be a little bit more about them. But anybody can wear a false mask. I know, I have an idea. I am happiest living more from my mind than my heart, and I really don't want to do love. But I also have inner conflict being in a relationship with someone like me, who also might be live more from their mind than their heart. Because we can all like to be in relationships with people who are more loving and, didn't make that free will decision. They chose love. They chose to put an end to the devil, not aligning with their more shadowy nature. Their truth is they freed themselves from the devil, their own more shadowy, fearful, manipulative, codependent, more about themselves nature. And those people are motivated and inspired by love. And everybody can like to be around people like, well, you're going to be more just and fair and loving and encouraging, and you've kind of tempered your more immature, shadowy, manipulative, more about yourself nature. Yeah, I love you. Let's get in a relationship. Let's be friends. Work here. Let's date. Let's get married. And they think that's a good idea. The only problem is when people get in a more mismatched relationship like that, the loving people, of course, their truth is love. They think everybody's motivated and inspired by love. And they might not have come in contact with people like this before. And we need to learn these lessons about people in the world, because God wants to give us our divine inheritance. But if we haven't learned these lessons, which is what High Vibe Virgo is about, that not everybody is who they present themselves as being. But because you could be a very loving person and you think everybody's motivated by love, you have a hard time and have inner conflict about kind of seeing the truth about some people who might be more about themselves. And that maybe do use their emotions more manipulatively, or their words manipulatively, or their status, or their image, or their charm, or their looks, or their sexuality, or all those things more manipulatively. Because that's not your truth. I mean, to me, that seems like an awful lot of energy wasted when you could just go with the flow in a relationship and work together and see how things go. But for some people, that's not how they live their life. I need to be in control of things. I have a lot of inner conflict and maybe believing in myself and believing in love. So I feel like I need to control things in order for me to feel more stable and grounded within myself. And then they came up with this good idea. I will not do love. That way I won't be hurt. But I want to be in relationships with loving people and I want other people to view me as loving. So I know I'm not going to get in a relationship with someone like myself. They decide I'm not going to be in a relationship with someone who's like me. Same way if they're more, some people's truth could be shadowy energy, can just be, I'm definitely more about the world and ego and image and status and money and materialism. To a degree, would they kind of like to be in a relationship with some other people who are more about those things? Yeah. But if the people in their life who are more about those things, maybe those people don't wear as good of a false mask. Everybody can tell they're definitely more full of themselves or bossy or controlling or whatever and materialistic. And the other people don't, even though that could be their truth, they don't want to be viewed that way. The shadowy King of Swords of Libra, which anyone can harness, it's like a person's public politician persona. I want to go out in the world and present myself as this just and fair, motivated and inspired by love. I'm not more about me. I'm not more immature. I'm not more about the ego and the image of it. But they are. But that can be shadowy energy too, of ego. Am I more immature? Am I more maybe petty and envious and jealous and all those things? Yeah, but you know, if I could have done that in the past, people frowned on it. But instead of seeing the truth of it and growing up and maturing themselves and seeing why they shouldn't act that way, they didn't learn the lesson. They did not detach from that more shadowy way of being. They just came up with the idea, I'm going to act like that's not my truth. And I'm going to go try to get in relationships with people who are more motivated and inspired by love. And if they do kind of a good job at hiding the truth of who they are, those friendships and relationships can last a really long time. Because there can be a lot of good things about it. Again, it's nice to be in a relationship with people who are loving and encouraging and just and fair and not being bossy or controlling or immature or prideful or egotistical and all those things. But you can't hide the truth forever. And eventually they get in a relationship with people who are more motivated and inspired by love. And it's that truth. This is like someone who harnesses more shadowy energy trying to work in a relationship with someone who's more loving. And the high vibe people haven't realized the truth yet, but the other people, they know their truth. They know that's not their truth. They know that they're more about themselves for the world. And eventually, we all kind of like to hang out with people who are kind of motivated and inspired to like to live their life the way we live it. If I like to go and do these things, I kind of want to hang out with people who want to go do those things. If I want to make my life more about this, and I'm pretty sure that would make me happy, I'm going to want to go do that. And eventually it can be a problem where, if the high vibe people are trying to move things forward and have a new beginning, like, You created the illusion. You wanted to work together, and high vibe energy can be being more authentic, being more independent, ready to move forward, give birth to something new. Love gives birth to new things. But you can only really authentically give birth to something new if you've kind of learned the lesson you're meant to learn from the past phase of life. It's like you can't pass go. You know, you can go get a new job, you can get in a new friendship, you can get a new relationship, but if you haven't changed and kind of what you're still motivated and inspired by and your idea of the dream life is still the same as it was, you're just getting into another situation, but you still have this old way of living life or viewing life and these same things that motivate and inspire you. And trying to get in friendship or relationship with other people who have detached from that phase of life or looking at life that way. They don't think that way, they don't act that way, they don't look at life that way anymore. This is Capricorn and this is Capricorn. So it can be the difference between, a more shadowy Capricorn, which Capricorn can kind of be about what we view as victorious and successful. High vibe Capricorn, kind of like high vibe Leo and high vibe Cancer and high vibe Libra and Gemini and Aries and all those Virgo, is all about freeing yourself from things that manipulate you. Growing, learning these lessons, seeing the truth, becoming independent of things that you realize you should detach from, seeing the truth of it. I need to put those ways behind me. Those things do not move my life forward in the way I want, and I see the truth of it. And I kind of need to grow up and mature myself, accept the truth of it, love myself enough to quit indulging that way of being or other people in that energy. If I have this dream of feeling more stable, more grounded, more balanced, more aligned with my loving nature and my worldly nature, being able to live in the world, but kind of apart from the world in a sense where I don't let those things tip my life out of balance so that I can move forward in the energy more motivated and inspired by love versus being about me or these things of the world as a driving factor. And the other people might want to move forward in it, but they're already like faking like this is their truth. How in the world do they fake the next level? Sometimes people can grow up with people and they could have known more just, fair, stable, grounded, loving people in their life. They know how people conduct themselves, and that's their idea. I don't really have to quit any of my shadowy ways of being. I just need to hide them better. And they could actually think that's what everyone else does. But other people really did heal and grow and mature themselves, or heal from past pain and heartbreak, or quit being more about themselves, got more balance within themselves. And these other people didn't. And so when the high vibe people are trying to move it forward, and they're just like, how am I going to fake that level? I'm faking where I'm at. They might not have known people who, in high vibe Leo, are more authentic and encouraging and loving. I mean, they could have, at every stage of life, people can be more just, more fair, more loving, more authentic, kind of come out from behind your ego. I mean, really loving people can be, if you're loving, you know how to fill your own cup emotionally, and you can freely give of yourself. Doesn't mean you have to freely give of yourself to everybody. Some people in the world are like that. Other people, it's more, because like, I don't know you, I kind of treat, other people could be more with the people that they're more involved relationships with. It's not like to everybody they meet. And the moment they meet them, oh my goodness. And, and I don't know if that would really be authentic or if that would be more wearing a false mask anyway. But we could all have known different people, and we've probably experienced that, and we can kind of relate to that because at different times in our life that we've lived our life, um, we could have hung around people and we knew people in our family and neighborhood. And maybe a lot of those people could have been older than us. And then if we get around people who are our age at those different stages of life, like at jobs and stuff, and those people seem to be much more stable, grounded, and mature than like us and our friends. It was just like, oh, wow. Yeah, it's kind of hard to fake that that's the truth of who you are if that's not really the truth of where you're at yet, right? So it's kind of like that. And eventually, as the high vibe people are trying to move it forward, they're trying to figure out why the other people in their life, it doesn't seem to be moving forward. Like things aren't changing. And part of the reason things aren't changing is because the other people are like, well, this is my truth. And I like it the way it is. And I think we should keep doing this. And the other people are like, yeah, but we did that. We kind of went through this stage of life. We're ready to move forward and give birth to the next phase of it. And the other people are like, no, I want to keep doing this longer. And Leo, again, represented by the strength card of kind of tempering your ego and kind of being loving and encouraging. People can be patient. Kind of like, okay, you know, well, we'll stay here for a while. But then again, it's kind of like, are we ready to move forward? And the other people are like, no, I want to keep staying here. And that's when the other people could be like, well, I'm beginning to wonder if my dream is going to come into reality here and if I'm going to get the justice I deserve. And, that could play out like in a workplace too. If people, oh, you should come work here. And oh, yeah, and there's going to be all these opportunities and you'll be able to learn new things and you'll get paid more. And then, like it will become more abundant over time. And that's kind of like when you get in friendships and relationships and you get past the beginning stages and then the relationship moves forward and you get to know each other more and more comfortable with each other. And then it moves forward, a relationship and a friendship. If you keep being in relationship and friendship, you would think it becomes more abundant over time. And the more in high vibe Leo that you're free to be able to be your more authentic nature, and you'd kind of think that other people would be more free to be in their more authentic nature, kind of like letting their more hopeful believing nature out to play in the world. And that is how you have these more deep, meaningful, authentic relationships. And eventually, the high vibe people kind of in the bottom row have this fear, am I ever going to get, is it ever going to change? I'm kind of ready to move forward with this. And they keep seeming to be happy, indulging with it being the way it is. And that's when people go through all this inner conflict. The devil can talk about this fear we have of moving forward, speaking our truth, standing up for our truth and what we think is just and fair. Sometimes we'd rather stay with the devil we know than face the devil we don't know. But I think loving energy tries to encourage us to not give up on our dreams and to give up on our truth. We're either working together with people where we're both encouraging each other to love and believe in themselves and believe in their dreams, but we work together in a just and fair way from love. Oh, you like to go do that, and I like to go, it could be more things that could be aligned with your own kind of victory and success in the world, maybe your own unique talent, skills, and interest, your truth. Are we equally supportive of each other? If you view something as aligned with your truth that you love, that you view as victorious and successful from love, not trying to hurt people, not trying to manipulate people, not trying to cause scandal or anything, and the other people have whatever theirs is, again, in truth and love, why can't we equally be pursuing our dreams and being loving and encouraging of each other. But some people don't like that. Some people do like it to be more about them. Um, maybe if people are, sometimes in order for some people to pursue their dream, maybe, it can require people to step out of their comfort zone. Um, and they had a way that they envisioned their life, and that could even just be, I was planning on living here. And it's like, well, in order for me to pursue my dream, I need to move, you know? And, sometimes people don't have ill intent, and some people do. And it's kind of, and there too, if someone had a dream of maybe getting married and having children, and the other person doesn't want to get married and have children, it doesn't have to be that there's ill intent, but, if that is something that is part of me feeling like that's aligned with my truth and that's what I would like to do, well, then we might have to not stay in a relationship with someone who's not motivated and inspired by that dream. That's not their truth. And though it can be difficult, I don't want to give up on that dream. And we are here to be able to manifest. We have this one life to manifest some of these things we want to manifest in life. And again, if it's career, if it's a certain, and some people could be more motivated and inspired by their career and much more ambitious and motivated in that way in their Capricorn energy. We can just all be at these different stages and phases. For some people, it's not negative. It's just that we kind of do view life differently and have different drive and motivations. But there's always going to be some people where some people are more shadowy and they don't want to be just and fair, and they don't want to have to change, don't want to be in relationships where they have to change. Other people should have to change, not them. And some people don't like other people to be more independent, don't like them to love themselves, kind of like to be God in their life, and you should make me God in your life, and you shouldn't love and believe in yourself. And some people have seen the truth about people like that, and some people are in those situations now. And trying to decide, am I willing to work through my fears and my inner conflict and quit letting my ego run my life, letting my fear run my life, status or image? The devil tempts us with all these things of the world. Do I want to stay in friendships and relationships and workplaces where it really maybe isn't aligned with my truth, I realize, or I don't think things are just or fair, or it is more about the ego and the image and the status, but I don't feel like I'm in a more loving relationship. People could act like they're loving, but I don't feel like they're authentically loving. It's like a strategy, calculated. It really doesn't. And if the other person is authentically loving, they would like to be in relationships with other people who are more authentically loving. Some people could be hiding that they know some people that they would kind of like to indulge in, but they feel that they can't. Maybe because of someone could be in another relationship. Maybe they could work together. Maybe one is a supervisor or a boss to someone else. For some people, that could be a situation. Well, I guess that is going to be the way it is. And, but there's no reason, so long as the person isn't in another relationship, there's no reason why a person can't just get to know someone more. You maybe can't get maybe in a more romantic relationship, but how about get to know them more to even find out. Maybe, you can be attracted to people, but maybe once you got to know them a little bit more, because some people aren't taking any action towards someone because they feel like they shouldn't, or maybe they're afraid if they were to take action, if that person is more aligned with their more loving, intuitive nature, they might be able to see that this person likes them more than they would like them to know. So until they can kind of feel like they could interact with them in a more casual way, they would maybe interact with them more for some. But I think high vibe people are just listening to their intuition about who's who. They've probably gotten out of some relationships with people that they knew they were more mismatched from. Then the devil can be about facing their fears. I'm not going to let shadowy people or my own fears stop me from standing up for kind of what I believe in. And I'm going to have this new beginning, work with divine and love and my own loving, intuitive, creative, inspired nature to guide me. I have more high vibe energy is I have more to work with in the world than just these things of the world. Again, that intuitive, creative, inspired energy is there, and it's kind of like listening to the synchronicities in life, the little things that happen, the little breadcrumbs that kind of get dropped along your journey, that something pops up and, say you're looking for a job and I don't know, you're always seeing a sign of a business, an advertising sign, or somebody's always mentioning some company's name or something. And it's just like, oh my gosh, okay. Because in the big picture, God, high vibe energy, which wants to give birth to new things, um, whatever you want to call that energy. It's just that we do live in a world of duality where we can do this or we can do that, and seems to be these big extremes. I mean, the people, I guess, who think that high vibe energy exists in the world trying to communicate basically with people in some way. If you're willing to have a little more hope and faith and belief that there's more to work with than just the things of the world. And then you do. And you work through your fears, your inner conflict about letting go of an old dream, and you're more being more manipulated by the world and other people, and you're moving forward, letting love guide you. And there could be some people in your life that would have liked to, just like you, stay in a relationship. The only thing is, they might not look at life that way, might not believe there's anything more to work with in the world than the world. They might profess to believe that there's a higher truth or power or justice to aspire to, but they might really think human beings are the top of it and there is no higher truth or power. And then if they have a certain status or image or whatever they think they got, they could think it is kind of like making them God in the world. And they kind of want to play that role in other people's lives. And they could be mad that you didn't make your life more about them or the world. It's kind of like the devil wants to be God, right? And it's like, I don't make the world God. I don't make my ego God. I don't make all these things I could indulge in. I don't think they're the answer to my life problems. I think it's me loving and believing in myself and trusting in a higher truth and power that is the answer to my life. And for other people, that is not their truth. And then I could view the devil can kind of represent that you challenge other people's belief system and they wanted to challenge your belief system, basically kind of wanting, I want you to let go of your dream and your truth to make yours more like mine. And with some of those people where it was more mismatched, it's like they weren't willing to give up their truth and you were and their dream, and you weren't willing to give up your truth and your dream. So it's like, love you, you go do you, I'm gonna go do me, and I guess, well, I'll see how it all plays out. And so the people who are more like hide that they like to live more from their mind than their heart could like to be people who like to indulge in relationships or are quite competitive in the world, could be more about themselves. They'll just go try to find someone else to be in a relationship and repeat this pattern with someone else. The other people learn the lesson. They're moving forward in life differently, looking to find other people who've learned those same lessons in life. They get to go on to the next level of the video game of life. And while they're doing that, the other people are going to repeat another pattern. Not giving birth to anything new, still not wanting to see the truth, not wanting to maybe do love, not willing to learn lessons, not willing to temper their ego, not willing to be more independent or shine their authentic light in the world. Well, the other people do. What's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Leo energy that they might not see coming up? The Tower. And 3 cards not showing themselves. And the reason is because of the Lover's card. Because you chose love in your dualistic free will nature, you were able to detach from a foundation. Again, there can be love there, but what you love at a core foundational level that you build your life upon, the tower, the foundation you build your life upon is different. In your free will nature, you're either building a foundation more on love or you're building it more on something else. And the other people are building theirs on these other things like them or the world or ego or indulgence or whatever. And you're building yours on love. So you freed yourself from a layer of your more worldly, immature, egoic nature, just like you did at 15 going to 18, 18 going to 21, etc. At whatever stage of life. You shed an old layer of yourself. You learned the lesson. You saw what wasn't aligned with your truth, and you were willing to detach from it and move on from it out of love for yourself to go get the justice you deserve. And while you're doing that, shadowy people can see you doing that. And shadowy energy, again, can be where people just try to create this illusion about the truth of who they are. And some of those people, of course, since that's what they do, they think that's what you're doing. And they could think you're doing a really good job because you really seem to have changed. You're not repeating some old patterns, not indulging the devil, not indulging your more lustful, greedy, prideful, immature, codependent nature, or whatever. You know, in all 3 of your air signs, in the Ace of Swords, your Libra, your Aquarius, your Gemini, you have hope and faith and belief in yourself, in your dreams, and in love, and you're maintaining balance within yourself as you do it. And you could be with Leo also and Aquarius, shining very brightly in the world. Less manipulated by a lot of things that other people are still manipulated by. Operating from a foundation of love and seeming very stable, and in high vibe Capricorn and Leo, looking very victorious and successful and having justice in your life, balance. And you've detached from some people in your life, and some of those people never thought. If you were someone who kind of used to indulge someone, those people thought you were going to indulge them forever. And they didn't realize I can be loving and encouraging and supportive to people because I assumed, you know, that you would be willing to do some of this work within yourself, to maybe be inspired within yourself to get more balance within yourself and work through some of these issues that might manipulate you. But if you keep seeing that they don't apparently have any interest in doing that, they want you to keep staying in a relationship. It's like you know how to fill up your cup emotionally to be able to fill up other people's cup of love, and then they just want to like stay there. Could you go get another cup of love and come back here and fill up my cup? It's like, how about I show you how learned how to fill up my cup of love so that you can fill up your cup and help fill other people's cup of love. And they're like, no, I'm good. How about you just go fill up your cup of love and come on back and fill up mine? You know, it's like I'm looking for people who want to move forward with me, where we do that for each other and we do that with other people. But so shadowy energy can be like dead energy. not inspired to give birth to anything new, want to keep doing the same thing over and over. And it's kind of, I'm going to let you do that with other people who want to do that. I wish you peace and love. I offered you truth and love, but apparently that's not your truth. So, I accept that. And what they don't know about you is some people can't understand how you're doing this because they could use friendships and relationships and status and ego and image and all these things to make them have a certain status and image and make them feel more stable and grounded within themselves and all that stuff. And you could be doing it not using people, having people in your life who you do enjoy their company and they're loving and encouraging and supportive, but not more out of ego or trying to manipulate people. Being authentic and high vibe Leo. So, what they don't realize about you is that if you, to some degree, you could harness this energy, had a layer in your more worldly egoic nature, that you harness these energies in a more worldly, shadowy way. And you work through those. You offered love to all those aspects within yourself. And now what they don't realize is you harness these energies in a more high vibe way. And they kind of don't see it and can't relate to it because it's kind of not their life experience. The King of Swords, the Knight of Swords, and the Six of Wands. You previously could have been more defensive in your own Leo energy because the Six of Wands is Leo. To work through the Six of Wands comes after the Five of Wands. You had to work through your own inner conflict about kind of believing in yourself and believing and standing up for yourself, and had to do this work to get more balance within yourself so you were less manipulated or codependent. And that previously could have been the energy you were in. So you kind of turned your back on that and you got in relationships with other people who, to some degree of their own, that's how they viewed life and felt about life. And you were hanging out with people that were kind of more on the same page as you. But as time went by, when you were inspired to kind of move forward differently and you kind of did that work within yourself, willing to change, willing to temper your ego, be more inspired to get more balanced and want more balanced relationships, and maybe connect in with your more emotional nature. Here a lot of fire and air, and this is water and earth. Air and fire are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel, and water and earth are on opposite sides of the zodiac wheel. You could have been in a relationship with people where you were trying to get more balance between these things that inspire you, but also kind of being practical and logical. And now you're kind of ready to maybe learn lessons more. Maybe you did get balanced in the Lover's card with that nature within yourself, and now you're going to go on a journey to get more balance between your loving nature and being grounded, and I can be a loving person, but I can also, I've learned it has to be more just and fair. And also, maybe before you were someone who, for some people, maybe not as much about investing in yourself or in your career or your own unique talent, skills, and interests. And now you're kind of ready to do some of that. And it's just a different journey you're on. And now you are more inspired within yourself. You're less living more from your mind than your heart than you probably used to. And like, well, this seems practical and logical. And you're more inspired to let your more loving, intuitive nature kind of guide you than being more manipulated by your mind or your fear or your defensiveness or the world. But they still could be some of those people in your life. And then, it could be kind of surprising in the tower. I think people that you previously had been defensive of moving away from because you had love for them. Now it's like, I can love people and I can keep my distance from them. Especially if I think they're kind of bossy or controlling or manipulative or full of themselves or whatever. I'll see you around or I'll see you at Christmas, But they could be surprised you're kind of not indulging them anymore because loving people can put a lot of work and effort to make a relationship work and make it move forward more victoriously and successfully. And eventually people realize, though, but I can't do that on my own. Can I maintain peace and balance in the relationship? Yeah, I can still do that to try to maintain balance in it, to get along, get through the day. But I'd rather work with people who want to work with me to cooperatively to have that balance, not where I'm putting in most of the work and effort to try to do that. Well, they kind of indulge in it. That you're putting in all this work and effort to make it seem all okay and just and fair and balanced and being loving and encouraging and getting along for the sake of getting along. Well, there too, the King of Swords kind of the judgment card is what it's kind of making me think of. That's the thing. One day Judgment Day comes and it can be a shock. Going from the one sword to the 10 of swords and the tower. That's what some people don't get. They keep not wanting to work together more cooperatively in a just and fair way. And eventually, the other people can't keep staying in denial of the truth. I am having to sacrifice my truth of investing my time and energy into people who are more just and fair and loving and work with me more cooperatively. And that's like Judgment Day. I'm done. And people move on. And some people will still be in their ego. Oh no, they'll be back. It's like the devil. They'll be back. I'm sure they won't keep loving and believing in themselves. I'm sure they won't be happy over there. And for some people, it's like, I did everything I could. I gave it everything I had. It was becoming detrimental to me and my own health. And I'm not willing to give up my own truth and loving myself or my health to keep indulging this. I'm done. And then the other people are like, well, damn, they saw the truth. Fuck. Yeah, at any time in that relationship, they had the free will to get out of their more egoic, immature, manipulative, stubborn nature to move forward with you. And they didn't. And so then you move on. And so you could have cut out some people that you think harness this energy in a shadowy way. Shadowy Libra, shadowy Gemini, shadowy Leo. If your truth isn't to be more inspired to work together with people more cooperatively in truth and love and justice and fairness, then I wish you peace. I hope that works out for you. But I'm moving on. What is... Yeah, and you've gotten out of your ego about it because the 6 of Wands moves away from the 5 of Wands. I have a dream. I see I'm not going to get justice here. I've worked through my fears and insecurities about it. I've gotten out of my ego about it. You can go do whatever you want to go do. I'm moving on. What's coming up for some of the people who are harnessing a more worldly, shadowy Leo energy that they might not see coming? As they they have their truth about what they think is the answer and will get them the things that they want in the world, which maybe isn't having to be just or fair or authentic or loving. The 10 of Pentacles, the Fool, and the 4 of Swords. And the reason is because of a card not showing itself, which is the Page of Cups. Yeah, in all 3 of their emotional water sign energy, of their Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, they just don't value that as important. In the 4 of Swords of their Libra energy, that's not their truth. They could offer love to their more worldly foundation, and Aries energy, the Fool, is kind of like Aries, and some Aquarius, and some Pisces. All of those signs can have some stuff to do about what motivates and inspires us and the dreams that we have for our life. They could offer truth and love to all those, that more worldly nature, or being more about themselves nature, or self-indulgent or materialistic or prideful nature. But then they'd have to connect in maybe with their emotions. And some people are like, no, this is a good idea. I'm just going to keep doing this. Whatever I go indulge in or make my life about, or making it more about me, or repeating an old pattern, after the Ten of Pentacles would be the Page of Pentacles, willing to be a student of life. But again, to be a student of life, to admit that maybe there's things I would benefit from learning, you know? And some people are like, no, I think I'll just keep doing this. Well, because of that, I think what they don't see coming is some of the people in their life, the pages can represent people who are being authentic and have that hopeful, believing spirit, that have been in a relationship with them, trying to, offer them truth and love and encouragement to move forward with them. And they keep seeing these people keep repeating these old patterns. The more high vibrational people in their life are going to quit investing in them. Because again, they see it's not their truth. And eventually we have to accept the truth. Everybody has the free will to live their life whatever way they want. And if they think it's just and fair to indulge themselves, or repeat old patterns, or make it more about the world, or be more codependent, because some of them are codependent on like a friend group or original family group or something, that they have fear of becoming independent of, because then maybe those people would be upset, and those people aren't moving forward that way, so they're not going to move forward. So they're going to go repeat an old pattern, and it's just more high vibrational people in their life aren't going to can't keep saying in denial of the truth. You keep like saying you're this kind of person, but then you keep doing this. It's contradictory. It doesn't. And sometimes people can be like, also, if people keep like, oh no, I got to try to love and encourage this person to love and believe in themselves. Well, it'd be one thing if they're under 18, and we can be loving and encouraging to everyone, but it's also to be a good leader in the world. And if they don't want, the only person who can free them from things that manipulate them is themselves. And sometimes we need to see the truth. They have no interest in freeing themselves from some things that manipulate them. And so we need to accept the truth of it. And they're maybe going to have to go repeat that pattern. And sometimes people got to get hit rock bottom and go learn some lessons the hard way, just like we all did. So the shadowy people could kind of hide that they're heartbroken. They had somebody who was just and fair and loving in their life. But, over time, like some people do, they kind of work through some of their inner conflict, and they're more past pain and heartbreak, and they're more immature, self-indulgent nature, and they're kind of ready to kind of grow up and move forward in life a little differently. And these other people are like, what? I thought we were going to keep doing this. And they refuse to want to maybe step out of their comfort zone, become independent of a way of living life or viewing life. And the other people said, okay, I wish you peace, but I'm not going to keep emotionally investing in that. But if that's your truth, you keep doing that. And maybe it's because there's things there that manipulate you, and those things don't manipulate me, and some of them never did. And I could have kind of felt like I was kind of stuck in kind of a toxic kind of environment, but I kind of thought maybe you were more independent from it, and I kind of thought, that you were more independent, and then I found out you're not, and the shadowy people, I think, thought that they knew best. And the whole thing is, when we think we know best, but we're not really letting love and intuition guide us, we could think, oh no, I think I know best. I think it's about these things of the world. And they go try to, because that's their truth, and they go try to maybe work in relationships like that, thinking they're aligned with truth and love. And then they could have gotten, it didn't work out the way they thought. Other people could keep seeing a truth that some of these people keep not wanting to see the truth of. They could view themselves as high vibe people. Because in a lot of ways, some of them are just fair. I mean, in a lot of ways, they can work together with people in a very maybe just and fair and loving and encouraging way. Well, the only problem is they don't want other people to keep like growing and healing and maturing themselves. They could be just and fair and loving and encouraging in a relationship, but oh, by the way, then, again, it's kind of like making me God in your life. You are not to be more independent. I am like your source. I am like your God source in your life. And other people are like, well, no, you could have been a loving and encouraging person in my life, and I could have been a loving and encouraging person in your life, but I don't make you God in my life. And it's not about making you God in my life. It's about, I thought we were all going to be loving and encouraging to each other to free ourselves from our more worldly, egoic nature, to give birth to something new aligned with truth and love. And they're like, but I am truth and love. you know, yeah, maybe with some of you, you were dealing with some narcissists and you didn't realize that. I think eventually, if these people in their own way, with Leo, the Ten of Pentacles, and the King of Swords, look like they have justice in the world and they wear a very good false mask, they'll have other people who come into contact with them that then have the free will to decide if that's their truth or it's not. You already found out it wasn't your truth, so it doesn't really matter what the other people do. But probably eventually the more of the bulk of the people around them, because shadowy people want to try to trap a loving person in their life. Get those people to give up on believing in themselves, believing in their dreams, live this more superficial life or make it more about them. But they'll mainly be surrounded by other people who are happy they think this way and live their life like that because they do too. And they just might be people who aren't very motivated and inspired to do love or do deep, meaningful relationships. And the other people, it will be obvious just by how the other people, the type of friendships and relationships, and how they live their life, that those people are more authentic and more inspired by love, and kind of see that the other people, it might be a little bit more about some of these other reasons that they get in a relationship. So, and the high vibe people don't have to do anything about it. It's like God kind of revealing the truth over time. Eventually the truth comes out. People can try to hide the truth as long as they want. And if some people take some immature risks in a relationship, instead of being more just and fair, listening to their intuition, tempering their ego, tempering their fear, offering love, they could do some immature things in a relationship that hurt people. And people feel backstabbed and betrayed, and it causes a lot of conflict in a relationship. And eventually some other people decide, I need to go because I can no longer stay in denial of the truth. So there you go, Leo. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.